me!
It's me!
It's me!
It's probably not me.
Romans 4 verse 5, to the one who does not work but believes in him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is counted to him as righteousness. Now, before you get in my comments and you say, now this is the works of the law, please read the full context of Romans 4. Then shall we say was gained by Abraham, our forefather, according to the flesh. For if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about, but not before God. For what does the scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. Now to the one who works, his wages are not counted as his gift, but as his due. And to the one who does not work, but believes in him who justifies the ungodly, his faith is counted to him as righteousness. And we know that Abraham was prior to the Mosaic law, so this cannot be talking about the Mosaic law.
Now, before we talk about Romans chapter 4, we have to understand the context of the heretics that Paul was dealing with. When we read Acts chapter 15, it actually fills in the details. In Acts chapter 15, it tells us there was a group of people known as Judaizers who were teaching that in order to be saved, not only do you have to rely on the new covenant, but you have to also rely on the Old Covenant, which forced the apostles and the elders to come together and define what the church teaches. They teach that in order to be saved, you must remain in the new covenant and only in the new covenant. So when Paul is writing in Romans chapter 4, he's making an argument against the Judaizers. He does this by bringing up Abraham. How Abraham was justified before the old covenant. How? Because he was obedient to what God told him to do, which disproves the notion that you have to rely on the old covenant, because if relying on the old covenant is how you're saved, then Abraham would not have been saved. Then Paul brings up David. And what's funny about David is that David is actually inside of the old covenant. But guess what? David was also saved apart from the old covenant, because the old covenant was unable to cover the sin that David committed, which is why we now have the new covenant that God commands us to follow that is able to cover any and all sins. That's Paul's entire argument. The old covenant doesn't save you. It's only within the new covenant we are saved.